Many people arrive in Bali with visions of rice fields, sunrise, sunsets, and surf. But what many people don't plan for but often end up with is a dog. Raise your hand if you have a dog. Now, keep your hand raised if you know the carbon footprint of your dog. Well, if you didn't know, the average carbon footprint of a dog is 770 kilograms of CO2 emissions per year. To put that into perspective, a larger dog almost has double the amount of CO2 emissions than the average family car. But what creates this carbon footprint of your dog? At 1.83 million tons of meat goes into pet food per year. That's the equivalent of 8 airplanes. A 2011 study found that 31% of all butchered animal leftovers from the US and Canada went into pet foods. But what's the problem with so much meat? There's 3 main issues. Industrial meat is the single biggest cause of deforestation globally. In Brazil, farmers are deliberately setting forest fires, like the Amazon rainforest fires, to clear space for cattle ranching and to grow animal feed for farms around the world. 2, animal rearing has huge water consumption. Animal agriculture is responsible for 20 to 33% of all freshwater consumption in the world. And 3, chicken, cows, pigs, and other animals have enormous animal welfare issues. For example, most luwaks in Bali are kept in tiny cages and are super stressed out to make coffee from their poo. As much as I love my dog, I felt that feeding him nutritious foods didn't have to come at the cost of the planet, people, and other animals. So what was I willing to do about this? Earlier this year, I had a science class where we learned about cricket and spirulina. During this class, there were a few interesting facts that I learned about these amazing insects. I learned that crickets and spirulina have 3 times more protein and ions than the regular meats, like chickens, beef, and pork. After finding this out, I really wanted to learn more about these amazing insects. 20 tons of crickets can be raised on the surface of a tennis court, and an insect farm can produce 10,000 tons of protein in 1 hectare a year. If we start to use resources more wisely, we can spare more land for wilderness and vital ecosystems. Crickets use 1,800 times less water and 100 times less carbon dioxide than cows. It takes 6 times less feed to produce the same amount of protein from crickets than it does to cows, making them a much more sustainable source of protein. Whilst doing this class, I also learned a lot about factory farming and how thousands of chickens get crammed into tiny cages and are filled with diseases that humans eat. I also learned about how malnourished all of these animals really are, often eating their own feces. For the larger animals like pigs, they don't have room to even lie down. So to summarize, crickets require only a fraction of the water, feed, and land required than traditional livestock. I started to put the pieces together, understanding the impact and issues surrounding meat production on our planet and providing alternative protein sources. But I still had one question that made me think. What was I feeding my dog? And it was this local kid's dog food made out of chicken and beef where I have no idea where he gets it from and costs 20,000 rupiah per can. After thinking about all these factors for a bit, I came up with a solution. What if I could make food for dogs that gave them the same amount of protein and nutrients they needed, but with a much smaller environmental impact? That was how my sustainable dog treat project was born. Version 1, no-bone dog treats. I saw a huge problem in the dog food industry, and I decided to work towards this problem with a solution. This was to reduce the carbon footprint of dog food, reduce water usage in dog food, and put a dent in animal cruelty. Simple, right? Well, once I started, I realized that this project was going to be a lot harder than I initially thought. Whilst experimenting with lots of plant and insect-based ingredients, but things weren't going as planned. Mainly since none of the dogs were actually eating my treats. I mean, my dog was eating literal poop from a diaper that he found in a rubbish bin and was not even trying my treat. So I could either give up or keep trying to get these dog treats actually working. So I came up with using a small amount of dehydrated fish. I came up with this idea after brainstorming for a large amount of time and still having the alternative to the regular meats. I decided to use sardines. Small fish like sardines, herring, and anchovy are about as low as an environmental impact as nuts and grains. After finding some dehydrated fish, I gave them to my dog and he loved it. This gave me a lot more hope for this project. So after making some batches with a small amount of dehydrated fish and some other new ingredients like mushroom powder, I brought the treats down to the beach and some dogs actually ate them. This was my first success moment. So I continued to test on lots of different dogs from the beach and in school, and I'm happy to say the dogs were finally eating my treats and I was finally getting somewhere. I was therefore already into version 2 of my idea. Having adapted to using some fish, realizing that the fish had bones and are not exoskeletons like crickets. So I changed the name slightly and came up with Barley Bones dog treats. I made a logo for this project and started to email Barley for second-hand jars. After sending multiple follow-up emails and still getting no response, I had to find an alternative source of jars. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a product to present to you today. Now, I had my jars and my stickers. All I needed to do was to get cooking, and I was on my way. I don't want to stop this project as soon as Quest finishes. So next year, I'll be selling at Spirit Fridays and trying to get into shops like Barley Direct, Alive, and Samadhi, so I can expand on this quest and have a much greater experience for later on in life. I'll be ending this speech with a quote for you to consider from Mahatma Gandhi. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. But I would like to add one more line to his wisdom. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated and by the way they treat their planet. I would like to thank my parents for helping me along this journey, both of my brothers, Finn and Nash, Ibu Laura, Ibu Angie, and Pakdan for motivating me along the way, Alex, Lisi, Simon, and Leon for letting me use their oven to cook the dog treats, and all the dogs that ate my treats for this project. Thank you.